Ghost in the Night with Phil Sams. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to episode number 6 of Ghost in the Night, a hauntings and paranormal podcast. So happy you made this journey with us, and we got a really good episode for you today because if you've been listening, you know that I've went on several investigations over the past couple weeks. And today I want to cover 2 of those investigations. I'm going to lump both of those in just for the mere fact, not to say that there wasn't a lot going on, but we had some activity, but it just wasn't overwhelming. So I'm just going to kind of group those together. And also, they were private investigations, so I'm not really at liberty to say their names or tell you where they are, because especially the first one, they don't want people to really know, and they don't want to have to deal with the chance of people coming in and tearing up the place. So I'm not going to say where they are, but I will cover those 2 investigations, what I felt, what I saw, and everything that went along with it. Okay, but before we get started, let me just go ahead and cover some stuff. We did finally get a home for the podcast on the internet. You can find this podcast naturally on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Play, TuneIn. But also, if you want, go to philsams.com, and that will be the new technical home of the podcast. So whenever you want, head on over there and you can catch the podcast there. YouTube videos are pretty much up to date so far, except for episode 5 is actually done. I haven't posted it yet, but probably by the time this episode airs, it will be posted. We have a new Facebook page. You can find it at Ghost in the Night. And so I'll put links to everything in Facebook and on Twitter. So any updates to the show will come through there. So naturally, like, follow, subscribe to all those, especially the YouTube channel. If you're watching on YouTube, how you doing? And hit the like button or hit the subscribe button and leave us a comment. We want to hear what you have to say about the podcast. If you have a story you want to share, then go ahead and you can get a hold of me through Twitter at @night_ghost, the new Facebook page, or shoot me an email at ghostinthenightpodcast@gmail.com. or leave us a message on the contact us page of philsams.com. However you want to get a hold of us, be sure to share your experiences and your stories with us. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get this podcast started. All right. The first investigation I went on was a little village type place. I'm saying village, but several older buildings, cabin-like structures that had reported activity throughout the night. So we went there. We went and did a really good investigation. Now, the one thing about this investigation was we had to be accompanied the whole time. So our group was fairly large, I think, with us and the tour guide, and the tour guide had 2 people there. So some of these places were kind of small, and therefore with our people and those people totaled about 11. So it was kind of hard to catch a lot of good evidence, just from the mere fact there's quite a bit of contamination when you got that many people in smaller areas. So wasn't a lot of information or a lot of evidence that I could share on this one. Now, I did talk about one of the experiences I had in episode 3 or 4, whatever, which I think was 3, about the importance of being skeptical. And in that episode, I talked about, I was hearing a kind of a knock noise or something to that effect early on in the investigation. Then we finished in the same room, and I went into the room where I thought I heard the noise coming from, and it turns out it was just a real small little storage area, bigger than a closet, but it was probably 6 by 6, somewhere around there. I'm not quite sure of the actual dimensions. And as I was in there doing a quick little EVP session, I heard that same noise. Now, it was a little louder because it wasn't being muffled through the walls and the doors like I heard it earlier in the evening. And after doing some thinking, do some debunking, I really found out what I thought was the cause of it. Now, outside there was somewhat of a wooded area, but outside there were trees, and naturally some of the branches were hanging over the structure and it had a tin roof. So what I believe I was hearing was moisture dripping off the leaves onto the tin roof. Once I was inside that room, it was pretty clear what it was. Now, the only caveat to that is when I first started hearing the noises, it was approximately 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock, and the moisture level in the air and what is accumulated on the ground was not quite that bad. I mean, it was still somewhat dry out, so I can't be 100% sure that was what I was hearing on the first part of the investigation. Now, later that night, I can say I'm 95% sure that's what I was hearing, just moisture droplets dropping on the tin roof. Now, earlier in the evening, we did catch one pretty good EVP where it was me and two other people, and somebody asked the question. I'm paraphrasing a little bit. Didn't really remember quite. I should have probably checked a little bit more, but it was a question along the lines of, have you done something you aren't proud of or that you regret, or something to that? Have you done something bad, essentially? And you can definitely hear a real faint yeah. So that was really the best audio evidence that we caught on that particular night, that I caught, I should say. Now, the rest of the evening, the rest of the buildings, I'm not a sensitive or an empath by any stretch of the imagination, I don't think. I mean, I've been told that, I might have a little bit of something going on there, but I can't say that I am, and I at least can't rely on my feelings or whatever. But I literally felt in every other building we went to throughout the night, I literally felt nothing at all. No pressure, no heaviness or anything. But that being said, other people were feeling some things, and we did have one person get scratched. And how that unfolded was, we walked into this particular building. It was a really small room, so there was really tight quarters. And we were kind of asking him some quick little questions, and not hearing a lot of noises, not feeling anything. And all of a sudden he said, "I gotta go," and he walked out. Now, later on, after we left that particular building, I did find out he got scratched, and it felt like somebody pulled out some hair from his midsection, and it did leave a mark. So that is an experience somebody had. Now, in that particular room, that was probably what I felt was the least active room from what I felt. So it's paranormal's kind of hit and miss. You never know exactly what you're going to get. Some people can get a lot. Some people might not feel anything, and that was really prevalent in that particular case. Now, one particular building that I did have some interesting visual encounters or visual observations. We didn't get anything per se on audio, but as I was sitting there doing the session, we did a ghost box session, we did, a standard EVP session, but like I said, there's a lot of people there. And this place there's two levels. There was upstairs and like an attic. There's probably 3 or 4 of them up in the attic. So a lot of the EVP was contaminated just from the mere fact, they were moving around. And if I played the audio, basically all you heard was us asking, "Is that you moving around?" with every noise or whatever. So I just pretty much threw out all that evidence and not even worrying about it. But visually, there are windows, essentially. And I was sitting in the corner by the fireplace. And there was windows on all 4 sides of the structure. So I had a clear view to the one window, and it had curtains, but it was open. And throughout that particular session, I kept noticing, it seemed like a dark mass would move in front of the window and kind of cover what light or whatever was coming through the window. I really couldn't tell what it was. So it kind of, after we finished, let me backtrack a little bit. I did get confirmation that the person sitting to my left was seeing the same thing. And as we were discussing it throughout the session, somebody had a EVP, or not EVP, somebody had a EMF detector that was right, I think K2 type detector that was right close to that window, much closer to than I was, pretty much on the same side of the room. And every time I was seeing it, that particular person was noticing that it was spiking. So that was interesting. Seeing that I saw it, somebody else saw it, and we did have another piece of equipment picking some kind of activity up at the same time. Now, after the session was over, I did try to debunk it. I had somebody sit there. There was no lights on anyway in that structure, but with flashlights, we were kind of trying to simulate it. Was it the curtains moving? What was blocking out the light? Because it definitely felt or seemed like it was on the inside of the building. So we really couldn't come up with a good rational explanation for it. It was interesting. Now, I didn't have any kind of video rolling, or we didn't have any static night vision cameras rolling in that particular section. So there's no visual evidence of it either. It's just my personal account. And, I can't explain it right now. Am I going to say it was definitely paranormal? Probably not. But it was interesting. And I think we're going back there in the next couple weeks, maybe. I don't know. I know we have plans to go back, I think, in November. So we'll see, and we'll try to debunk some of that, or at least try to find some answers to see what it was. Because I don't know. I mean, that's the one thing about paranormal. We never know exactly what is causing it, and hopefully I can kind of get some answers, but we'll see. Now, one of the last buildings we went to, I was another one of those buildings. I absolutely felt nothing. I did hear a knock, or what I interpreted as a knock in the beginning. I tried to debunk it, and as I was debunking it, I did find the floor was squeaking by the door, so I could replicate it, but I was sitting right there, so I know nobody was walking at that particular location. So there was some sort of movement in that area. That is the only thing I caught at all at that particular, or it's the only thing I caught there or experienced at that portion of the investigation. Now, other people in that meeting hall was they caught a lot of stuff. There was some, there were some EVPs that they told me about. Visually, there were some still pictures where what appeared to be a shadow. Window-wise, there was something by the window. I know we have to go back and debunk that because it was split 50-50 on what we thought it was. It could be a kind of a moon shadow off a tree from the outside that was being cast inside. So we got our work cut out for when we go back to that particular location. And we'll see what happens with that one. So I look forward to going back and trying to find, hopefully, more evidence, and maybe we can work to where there's not so much contamination. I don't know, but I'll be more prepared for this investigation there because I know what to expect with the sheer amount of people, and hopefully I can get some much better evidence, on tape and on video. So we'll have to wait and see. So be looking forward to that. Now, the second investigation I went on was, I believe, 2 weeks ago. It was one of the first, it was the start of kind of my week 2 investigations right in a row. So, and I believe the last 2 podcasts I did was more mobile. And that's one reason why there was no video for it. I had to do them on the road, kind of traveling to these locations. But we went to a plantation home in Kentucky. Once again, I'm not going to say which one because I'm not quite sure. We were guests at this particular one with another group, and so I'm not quite sure on what the legality is of sharing the name of the place and where it's at. But, it's pretty nice, big, old plantation home, so it has that creep appeal. Now, this is one investigation that kind of struck me as soon as I walked in the door. Like I just stated earlier, I'm not sensitive, or I don't feel that I'm sensitive or really in tune with that portion of my mind. So I don't know, and I can't trust my feelings all the time. But from room to room, I was feeling a lot of pressure. I was getting aches in my jaw and my ear in different rooms, and there was times that I just didn't feel really great. I felt nauseous at times. Now, I did have some really strong personal experiences at this location. Now, we started out the investigation. We were a bigger group, but we were able to break up. So me and another investigator went upstairs while everybody else went down the basement. So we did a quick ghost box session there. Got a lot of interesting results. Got my name said through the box, which was really interesting. What made it really interesting, it just wasn't my first name. I was kind of away from it, so I didn't really hear it, and my recorder was away from it, so it didn't come out real clear on it. But the person who was holding the ghost box definitely said my name, and it said my full name. So that was really interesting. I mean, I've had my first name said before, but never my full name. So that was really curious. Now, let's move to later on in the investigation. We went to what I can best describe as the servants' quarters, where there's 2 beds. I'm going to say it's a servants' quarters, but I don't know. Might have been just some children's bedroom. I do not know. But there's 2 beds. Actually, there's 3 beds, but 2 maid beds. We did a ghost box session there. We couldn't really do a good EVP session because the people from the basement by this time had moved to the main floor, and so we're getting a lot of bleed off from them, and we could hear them pretty well. And we even tried to shut the door to kind of filter that down. But the ghost box session was really interesting. We were getting some interesting responses, which seemed to be intelligent. Now, what really struck me about this one is, as we were doing the ghost box session, I got touched, essentially. And just to backtrack a little bit, somebody in the basement earlier in the evening while we were doing the first session came up and said they got scratched, and we actually saw the scratches, and it was, they were there. There's no mistaking they were scratched. I went into this other room. Nothing was really going on outside of noises. Outside of the ghost box session. We could hear some faint noises every now and then, some knocks, but like I said, we couldn't really say either way because of the people that were one floor below us. But I got touched, and we were kind of by this time, one of our other investigators had joined us, so there's 3 of us in the room. We were doing the session, and this is essentially what I felt. If somebody would take the back of their hand and just go like this real lightly, how that almost a tickle feeling that you get when somebody touches you real lightly. That is what I felt. And at first, I was videoing that particular session, and I had the video pointed towards me. Now, because it was a private location, and I would generally put it in this portion of the video, or at least post it on Twitter for the people listening to the podcast can actually see it. But because, like I said, because I'm not quite sure with this particular location whether or not I can go that route, I'm not going to post it. But I went back and I checked it. So naturally, at first I was thinking, a bug or something had brushed up against me or something, because it was pitch black, could not see a thing. And upon reviewing that evidence or that piece of footage, there was no bug. Now, there was no orb or anomaly that you could tell. It was just look on my face, and you can see me kind of start going, touching my face, kind of trying to get something off me. And, they asked if everything's okay. And I said, yeah, I think I just got touched. Or, I'm not sure about it. I think something just touched me. I'm not sure. And then naturally, the ghost box session kind of geared toward that, where they asked, did somebody touch Phil? And, we got a yeah, naturally. But what really struck me for this part of the investigation is, as soon as that happened and we started talking, I immediately got nauseous. I started to get physically ill. And soon as I left, we ended the session shortly after. We went back down to where we had our base camp set up. I started feeling better. Now, there was no scratches that came on, so it was just a real light touch, and I can't rule anything out at this point, but I'm 100% positive it wasn't a bug, because a bug would have caught up on the camera. With me getting sick, me feeling it, I'm going to say I was definitely touched and something happened there. So I wish I could show you that evidence. And as time goes by, maybe I'll find out more about this location, and we'll maybe show it, or I'll put a video up on YouTube about it for you guys to check out. Now, if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, please head over there and subscribe. Let's get those numbers up. I know a lot of the podcasts, especially the ones that were done here lately, have just been pretty much a still screen of the cover art, because I couldn't do the video. I just had to record the audio of it. So I'm going to try to do more of these video. No matter what, just hit the subscribe button, leave us a comment, let us know what we can do better, or what you want to hear, and everything. Now that I got that out of the way again. The rest of that Kentucky investigation was kind of dull. It was almost like somebody cut off or flipped a switch at about 2:30, 3 o'clock, and nothing really happened after that. Didn't get any kind of pressure feelings, no more nauseous feelings, no more really good voice or ghost box sessions, no real good responses. It was like somebody just literally turned the water off on it, and it just dried up. Naturally, some other people, the rest of the people from the other team and our team, kind of called it a night, laid down for a while, and stopped investigating. And I kept investigating for about another hour or two, till about 3:30, maybe even 4 o'clock. And it was just dead after that point. The entire feeling of the building or the house kind of let up, it lightened up, and even personal experiences dried up. So I kind of even laid down at that point. Now, as I was laying there, there's a little couch, and I was just kind of laying there, going to catch an hour or two nap before I packed up and headed out. I did almost sound like I was hearing a few footsteps on the stairs, which, the real light and faint, and nobody came down. And I heard what I thought was a music box playing from upstairs. Now, there was 2 or 3 people that were upstairs, but they called it a night fairly early, and they were probably fast asleep by that time. So that was a little interesting, but I didn't have a recorder going, because I'd pretty much called it a night at that time. I was just going to lay down and catch a few Z's. But overall, it was a decent investigation. I would like to go back there, maybe with a little bit smaller group, but I'm not even sure that's going to be possible anymore. We'll have to wait and see. But if we don't go back, it was still a decent place. Is it one of the most haunted places in Kentucky? I wouldn't go that far. I think Ross Opera House in Cynthiana was much more active, at least from my experiences. I know there's some other locations that I think we're going to try to do here in the near future, and we'll see what happens with those. But I just wasn't overly impressed with those particular ones. Yes, there was a little bit of activity, there was a little bit of personal experiences, but there wasn't a heavy feeling. It didn't seem anything sinister by any stretch of any imagination. But we'll have to wait and see. Maybe, I'll go through the evidence again, or what footage I did have, and kind of see if maybe I missed something, but I really don't think I did. All right, let's talk about what I have coming up in way of investigations. Now, last week I went to Poasttown Elementary School in Middletown, Ohio, and it was kind of a public event. It was an interesting investigation that I'm going to cover in an upcoming podcast in the next couple of weeks. I don't want to get too deep into it now because we're going back again. They're having another public event this upcoming Saturday. So I'm going to hold off on that now. If you follow me on Twitter at @night_ghost, you'll probably noticed that I wanted to go live, but the building is an old school, so it's a cement building, and it didn't, I didn't have a great signal inside there. And by that time, the owner had left. I think they might have a Wi-Fi system, but I wasn't tapped into it. I'm going to be a little bit more prepared, so I want to go live on Facebook for this investigation. Depending on, I'll definitely go live at some point. Maybe I want to do a walkthrough, just kind of give everybody a brief, lay of the land, so to speak, and maybe even some of the investigation part. I'll try to go live at some point, but we'll see. I definitely am going to go live at some point on Saturday. I think I have to be there at around 6-ish, and I think it starts at 7 till about 3. We'll see. But I want to go live, so be sure to be on the lookout for that on Saturday the 13th. What else do we have coming up? Oh, and something I'm really excited about. We are going to be at Thornhaven Manor in Newcastle, Indiana, which a lot of you are probably familiar with. It's been investigated by some of the big boys. Ghost Adventures had done a episode at that location, when they got a lot of good evidence, and they debunked a few things. The Ghost Brothers or some other smaller investigation teams or shows have been there. So I am super excited about hitting that location and finding out what that's all about, and hopefully have a ton of evidence to share with you via the podcast and share with you on YouTube. So don't forget, I'm going to wrap this episode up. Follow us on Facebook now, Ghost in the Night. Also follow us on Twitter, @night_ghost. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. There's a link on philsams.com on the home page. So head over to philsams.com. Leave us a comment there. Let us know what you think. You can get to our YouTube channel from there. You can get to the Facebook channel from there. You can even see our feeds from Twitter on there. And naturally, the email address is ghostinthenight@gmail.com. So be sure to get in touch with me directly if you have a experience you want to share. If you're an investigator and you've had a crazy experience on an investigation, you want to tell the story, hit me up, and we will definitely get you on the podcast and see what we can do, because this podcast will be much better with you guys interacting. Just listening to me talk is kind of boring. I suck at it, and it gets old real quick. So let's get you guys involved. If you have a story, let me know, and we'll get you on the podcast. So until next time, be on the lookout for the live session this Saturday, and follow us on Twitter and interact, subscribe, leave us a review on iTunes, and comment on YouTube, all that happy stuff, and follow us on Facebook. We'll see you next time. Bye.